Okay, let's talk about Flash. Yes, I am going to talk to you about Flash, a long dead technology that was everywhere in the early 2000s. But stick with me. Don't worry. I'm going to tie that into something that is happening today and something that I think is really important. So, as I mentioned, Flash was a technology that was owned by Adobe. And back in the early 2000s, it was something that we as creatives, as web designers and developers, what we used for animation, it's what we used for interactivity, all of those things. All of those things were made possible by Flash, which is this proprietary technology, again, owned by Adobe. And it was impossible to imagine a future of the web, a future of the internet without Flash. Okay? So keep that in mind. Now, Steve Jobs introduces the iPhone. Huge, amazing, mind boggling. Introduces the iPhone, introduces iOS. It's incredible. It's an absolute game changer. You feel like you're seeing the future. And a lot of people forget this, but at the time, one of the questions that was asked over and over and over again, at least by us web designers and developers, was when is Flash coming to iOS? When is Flash going to come to the iPhone? It's crazy to think about it now, but it's true. And this was something that was discussed and it was anticipated and it was asked over and over again until finally Steve Jobs releases an open letter that was called Thoughts on Flash. Okay, so stay with me because we are going to tie that into something that I saw recently. And in that letter, Thoughts on Flash, Steve Jobs talks about why Flash isn't going to be on the iPhone. It's because it was a closed and proprietary technology. It's because it was a resource hog and because it just wasn't the future. So it's crazy to think that it sparked lots of debate. It was absolutely seismic, again, in the web design and development community. And it was absolutely correct. So you fast forward a few years, and Flash is part of website history, of internet history, I should say. And we've moved forward since with, more open and much better technologies. Okay, so you're probably wondering, why did I spend the first minute of this talking about Flash? Okay, this is because I saw a letter, and you might have seen this letter. It was from Tobias Lutka, and I'm sure I'm murdering his last name, so apologies for that. He is the CEO of Shopify. And in that open letter, he says that uh, using AI is no longer an option. Using AI is now a requirement for the folks at Shopify. So, what does that mean? It means that any solution that anybody puts forth at Shopify or anything that anybody does, it has to start with AI or some AI driven technology. When there are performance reviews for folks that work at Shopify, one of the primary things that they're going to be evaluated on is whether or not they used AI in a very intentional way in their workflow, in their day to day, and all of the other things that he talks about in those open letter, his open letter, excuse me, they are all some variation of you are going to use AI. It is no longer an option. So you're probably thinking like, okay, that's where I see things going. That makes sense. But it was the last part of his open letter that really raised my eyebrows. And it says that if you are at Shopify and you want to hire someone, you want to say like, hey, there's a role that needs to be filled. We need to hire an actual human being. Now the rule at Shopify is you must first make a case as to why AI can't just do that job instead. So stop to think about that for just a moment and think about the implications of that. It's saying that you have to prioritize AI as a solution even when it comes to bringing an actual human being in to do the job. I think that's fascinating, and I think that is where things have been headed. But it's the first time that I've seen it stated outright, and I think a lot of people are going to be watching to see what happens at Shopify, what happens to their corporate culture, um, asking all kinds of big questions. What does it mean to work? What does it mean to our relationship to AI? When does it go from being a tool to being something else entirely? It's absolutely fascinating. And again, I think that a lot of people, a lot of CEOs in particular, are going to have their eyes on this to see what happens. So who knows? See, I told you I was going to tie it to the thoughts on Flash because that letter from Tobias Lutka seemed just as seismic. At least it did to me. So we shall see what happens. I am very eager to see what happens. As a longtime creative, one of the things that I'm working on now is mapping AI first workflows to the creative process. And I know that there are all kinds of thoughts about that, but it really is here to stay, and I don't think that it's going anywhere. So one of the things that we do best as creatives is we adapt. So it's time to adapt.